Let's speak more on this now with Jim Walsh. He's a research associate at MIT Security Studies Program and joins us now from Boston. Thank you for being with us. Now, we heard those very equivocal comments there from the Pentagon spokesman, not confirming or denying those reports about Iranian involvement. I suppose that tells you quite a lot in itself about the relationship between the U.S. and Iran when it comes to the common enemy that they have in ISIL.
Yeah, I think it does. I think that's a good question because, on the one hand, clearly they're all but saying, yes, this happened. We know it happened. And they're not raising a big fuss about it. They're not saying, oh, this is terrible, this is awful that this happened. But it also, the fact that they sort of tiptoed around it speaks to the fact that in both capitals, in Tehran and Washington, there's sensitivity about being seen as cooperating with the other. So even though they both have this common interest, that is to say Iraq, and they must clearly be communicating at some level, practically speaking, they don't want to be sort of highlighting that in their public statements or it'll cause problems at home.
So what does Iran bring then in the effort to defeat ISIL? What does it bring militarily?
I think quite a bit. I mean, it's been on the ground. Iranian officials have said that they have been involved specifically in direct fights in support of the Kurds, in support of the Iraqi army. So I think they've been involved in sort of ground operations. This is notable that now we have evidence of airstrikes, but, you know, whether it's ground or it's air, military is military, war is war. So I think it's significant. And I think it sort of says something interesting about the situation right now with Iran. Iran has to make some tough tactical decisions, but obviously it feels concerned enough about ISIL, concerned enough about the future of Iraq, that it has to carry out some of these airstrikes to try to hold back ISIL.
Yeah, and what does it tell us about where Iraq stands in all of this and its perceived the weakness of the government there, that it's got the United States on one side using its assistance there to defeat ISIL and Iran on the other?
Well, you know, it's sort of interesting. Sarah Niesel, the interview producer for Al Jazeera English, asked me, is this the axis of evil turning into the coalition of the willing? And while I don't expect North Korea to join, it does sort of point to an odd set of politics. Listen, you know, back in the bad old days for the U.S., you had Saddam Hussein, you had Iran. Well, Saddam Hussein is gone, and there's this new government. And by the way, that's very welcome news that they've reached out to the Kurds. Let's hope that that agreement sticks, that this demonstrates power sharing, which was the problem with the previous government. But in any case, you know, there's a new government, and the U.S. supports that government, and the Iranians support that government. So there's common interest here, and we both want to defeat what is a awful war criminal beheading group of extremists. But how you do that can be a delicate matter politically.
Yeah, I can tell you Sarah Niesel knows her stuff, that's for sure. Good to speak with you, as always. Jim Walsh there joining us from Boston. Thank you. Our student